are listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper, sponsored by Duct Tape, the real duct tape. It fixes everything, except bad decisions. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America. From border to border, coast to coast, and all ships at sea, here is your host, Keith.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper podcast for August the 17th, 2026. And today is my Prepper Camp 2026 weekend recap episode. As most everybody knows, this was my second Prepper Camp, my first as a presenter, teaching run, hide, fight, how to survive an active shooter situation. First of all, I want to say thank you. If you attended one of my classes, stopped to ask me questions, or just stopped to let me know that you enjoyed my podcast, thank you so much. Those conversations mean a bunch. Because when you record a podcast week after week or day after day, in some cases with me, you're just talking into a microphone. You can see the download numbers, maybe you get a comment or a review here and there, but you don't get that immediate feedback. You don't get to see faces. You don't get to hear the follow-up questions. You don't get that real-time human exchange or human interaction. But obviously this past weekend was different. People stayed after class to ask questions that we did not get a chance to answer during the regular Q&A. Other folks just stopped me as I was walking around Prepper Camp to let me know they either enjoyed the class or they enjoyed listening to the podcast. And that is incredibly rewarding. It reminded me on why I started this podcast back 4.5 years ago. And I've always approached the podcast the same way. I just want to provide my opinion on prepping basics, the prepper mindset, the idea that prepping does not have to be expensive, nor does it have to be complicated. And this weekend, I got to go face-to-face and engage with people with this material. I got to answer specific questions, and I got to watch it click. So podcasting gives you the reach, but teaching gives you that human connection, and I think both are very important. So let's talk about the classes themselves. Friday was a pretty good crowd, maybe 60, but a lot of people work on Friday. Saturday was obviously the largest turnout, and Sunday was very, very close to the same turnout. The Q&A was strong for all three classes. People were engaged, they were taking notes, they were asking questions, they were asking real-time specific questions about scenarios, about what to do, how to think through a situation. And I could tell that everybody was definitely engaged processing what I was presenting. And I also did some giveaways during classes to keep things fun and to thank everybody for showing up. I gave away several mini first aid kits that I called boo-boo kits. I gave away a fire blanket. And the big prize, I gave a 1-ounce silver round that I handed out randomly for each class. And everybody seemed to enjoy that. It's a small thing, but it added a lot of energy to the room. And it was just my way of saying that I appreciate everybody that was there. So let's talk about the venue itself, because again, like I've said before, this year, Prepper Camp moved. For the last 13 years, I believe, it was held at Orchard Lake Campground, but the event outgrew it very quickly. So this year, it moved to the Tryon International Equestrian Center and Resort in Mill Spring, not very far from Saluda, where Orchard Lake Campground is. This place is enormous. This is a massive, purpose-built equestrian facility and resort, hundreds of acres, multiple arenas, restaurants, shops, lodging on site, event spaces, walking paths, a ton of stuff. The infrastructure was very impressive. The facilities are beautiful, and the place was definitely designed to handle a large number of people, animals, vehicles, and events that could probably go on simultaneously. And if you wanted to, you could spend an entire weekend on property and never have to leave. Between all the different restaurants, the shops, there was so much to do. But as you know, everything has its growing pains. The heat, it was in the mid-90s, high humidity, no mountain breeze because we weren't in the mountains, we were off the mountains. So when you were walking between sessions, it was hot. So the heat was a real factor. It wore on me. It wore on other people. Some people probably cut their visit short, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And there might be something in the works to help with this next year. Parking was different. People had to park in a large lot and then take shuttles down to the site and then walk in. And basically the tents are set up around a large pond, just like they were at Orchard Lake. But really, we didn't have much of a breeze. It did rain a little bit on Friday and Saturday. That helped cool it down just a little bit, but for a short period of time. So with the heat and everything, here's the good news. The organizers, Rick and Jane, mentioned that they would love to move Prepper Camp to October of next year, presumably at the same place. And that got a huge round of applause from the volunteers, the presenters, and the folks that stayed for the presentation by Rick. So Prepper Camp at this location in October would be a completely different experience. Cooler temperatures, fall foliage, more comfortable conditions for an outdoor heavy event. And I think that change, if they can make it happen, would make a world of difference. So the food. So let's go back to Tryon property itself. And let me tell you about Gertie Mays. So I was at the lodge on property on the 3rd floor. And when I walked out of my hotel room, I took a right and walked maybe 60 or 75 feet. And Gertie Mays was on the 3rd floor. Really good food. I had their double smash burger with Parmesan fries. I had no idea that Parmesan fries was even a thing. I ate there Thursday night and Saturday night, and I got the smash burger both times. Friday, I had dinner at the Blue Ginger sushi restaurant, which was very good. I had a spicy crab poke bowl and a California roll for dessert. A little bit pricey, resort prices, but that's what you get when you're staying at a resort. The food was good, not fantastic, but it was good. It was fresh. The fish was fresh. So between Gertie Mays, Blue Ginger, and all the other options on the property, you could absolutely feed yourself for 3 or 4 days without ever having to leave the property. And that's a big deal when you're at an event like this, when there's multiple things going on throughout the day. So let's talk about the vendors themselves back at Prepper Camp. I had some amazing interactions, and some of them really stuck with me. I met the folks from Firehole Arms. Their website is firehole.com. They're a family-owned company that manufactures custom small arms ammunition through their company, Dark Hills LLC. I picked up some 5.56. It seems to be a very good product. But here is what stood out about Firehole. They describe themselves as a Christ-first family endeavor. They treat their business as a ministry. They hand out hats, they hand out Bibles. On the packaging of their ammo, there's Bible verses and other really cool sayings. Their whole approach is this: we're going to make quality ammunition, and we're going to use our business as a way to serve and share our faith. That's their mission, okay? And then there's my friend Diane Devereaux, the canning diva. Diane was there when we were talking with the vendor. Actually, the gentleman from Firehole was at her tent, and I happened to be there as well, listening in, and then joined the conversation. And Diane basically said the same thing. She treats her company, her talks, her merchandise, her teaching as a ministry as well. For her, it's about teaching food preservation as a way to help families become more self-reliant. It's service and it's contribution. And you know what? In addition to that, the organizers themselves, Rick and Jane Austin, they said the exact same thing in a whole different conversation. They do not make money from Prepper Camp. The ticket sales go to the rentals, the facilities, the logistics, and all the costs of putting on an event of this size. They told us that they do this as a ministry as well. Community building, service, not necessarily a business venture. Now, so here's the straight poop. When I first heard the word ministry in the first conversation, I didn't think much of it, and I was a little confused because I wasn't aware of the context. But then I heard it again and again from 3 different people, 3 different contexts, the same word. And at first, like I said, I was a bit confused. Ministry at a prepper event, selling ammo, teaching canning and food preservation, organizing a camp, how does that relate to being a ministry or offering it as a ministry? But the more I listened, the more it made sense. These are not people that are preaching at you. They're people who see their work as something with a purpose beyond income. It's not about making a dollar. It's about serving a community, sharing what you know because it is worth sharing, using whatever skills or gifts you have to help other people. And after that, it made complete sense to me. So honestly, that's why I do the podcast, for that exact same reason. And I am not a Bible thumping, go to church 3 times a week kind of guy. So that's why the word ministry kind of threw me off until I understood the context, which makes a lot of sense to me now. So while we are talking about community, all of the speakers at Prepper Camp present for free, every single one of us. We're not getting paid. We're there because we want to share what we know. The volunteers who handle setup, the AV, tent setup, tent breakdown, they're all volunteers, every bit of it. The people setting up the chairs, the people tearing it all down Sunday afternoon, again, all volunteers. So Rick and Jane put this together, and logistically, this is very, very difficult. The coordination alone, speakers, vendors, schedules, facilities, porta potties, transportation, food, lodging, audiovisual stuff, it's massive. And they do it because they believe in what the prepper community represents. And that brings me to something I want to highlight. The sense of community that's on full display at Prepper Camp. It's everywhere. It's in the volunteers showing up early, staying late. It's in the speakers giving their time for free. It's in the attendees helping find other sessions, sharing water in the heat, swapping tips in the vendor area. It's in the conversations that happen between classes among strangers that become friends because they share a mindset. And oddly enough, I did a podcast episode on community just a week or two ago. And this weekend just reinforced everything that I said in that episode. Community isn't something you talk about in theory. It's something you see in action. And Prepper Camp is community in action. That deserves recognition. So thank you to Rick and Jane. Thank you to all the volunteers, all the speakers, all the vendors, everybody who showed up, all the attendees. You are the backbone of what Prepper Camp is. So it may not be too early to talk about next year for me. So the big question, would I go back? Yes, I absolutely would. The venue has some real potential. The facilities are there. The infrastructure can handle it. And if they move it to October, which I really hope they can pull off, it'll be a lot more comfortable. And I think any issues with the heat and the weather would automatically disappear. You take heat out of the equation at Tryon, and this becomes a super pleasant place to spend a weekend. But even if the venue stayed at the exact same time, same heat, same parking, same shuttle situation, I would still go back. Because the venue is not what makes Prepper Camp work. The people make it work. The presenters who show up and teach for free make it work. And especially all the volunteers that give their time, the organizers who pour their energy into making it happen, the vendors who see business as a service, and the attendees, the people who drive from all over the country because they want to learn from the best. They want to connect with the best, and they want to be part of a community that takes preparedness seriously. I think that's what keeps people coming back year after year, and that's what's going to keep me coming back as well. So I'll leave you all with this. I went to Prepper Camp to teach Run, Hide, Fight. I prepared for weeks. I practiced. I made sure I knew my material inside and out. But my biggest takeaway from the weekend was not the teaching itself. It was realizing that people found it valuable enough to stop me and say so. That strangers walked up to me after class and told me that it mattered to them. I have already received several emails from folks that did not have a chance to talk to me personally, and I really appreciate that. So that's a milestone. For my first year as a presenter, that means everything to me. I share ideas every time I record a podcast, but this past weekend, I got to connect face-to-face in real time, and that reminded me why I started doing this 4.5 years ago. So if you've ever thought about going to prepper camp, just go. If you ever thought about presenting, do it. The community will show up for you the same way they showed up for me. Thanks again for stopping by, everybody. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who came to my classes and spoke to me. I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. And as always, please be careful out there, take care of one another, and until next time.
You've been listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper. Subscribe, like, drop a review. Over and out.